Okay, hi everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. I would like to address the issue of the ICC. So first and foremost, of course, we're aware of the Prosecutor General of the ICC's work. We respect the independence of the ICC. All parties must make sure that they abide by international law, including international humanitarian law. We've been calling all parties to do so for months now, and so therefore we are closely monitoring the process. Donc, lorsque vient la question de la Cour internationale pénale, premièrement, la Cour internationale pénale, la Cour pénale internationale, pardon, elle est indépendante. Nous respectons son processus. Tous les partis doivent respecter le droit international, incluant le droit international humanitaire. Ça fait maintenant des mois que nous en appelons aux partis de le faire, et donc nous allons continuer de suivre de très près le processus.
L'équivalence entre Israël et le Hamas de faire une telle demande?
C'est sûr qu'il n'y a pas d'équivalence, parce que d'un côté, il y a une organisation terroriste, de l'autre, il y a un État. Mais en même temps, les charges qui ont été déposées sont différentes à l'encontre des deux parties.
Est-ce que ça vous convient? Est-ce que dans le libellé, vous voyez quelque chose qui résonnerait auprès du Canada, pour lequel le Canada pourrait appuyer ça?
Vous avez entendu notre position. Notre position est claire, c'est que la Cour internationale elle-même est indépendante, le processus est indépendant et le Canada va respecter le processus.
Does Canada support this decision? Does Canada support the ICC issuing these requests for warrants?
So, like I said, first and foremost, of course, there's no equivalency because one organization is a terrorist organization, the other one is a state. That being said, charges that have been laid are different. What I'm telling you right now is that we will respect the independence of the court and therefore of its process, and we'll follow it very closely. And of course, the court will continue to do its work, and we will make sure that we react accordingly.
If arrest warrants are issued and Prime Minister Netanyahu comes to Canada or one of these Hamas leaders comes to Canada, what happens? Does Canada arrest them?
First, Hamas can't come to Canada, they're a terrorist organization, so therefore that case is settled. As for the other scenario you're presenting, it's an hypothetical question, and therefore I won't answer it.
We're getting closer and closer to it becoming reality.
It's an hypothetical question. Oui.
C'est exactement la même chose. Là, je veux savoir si vous allez exécuter des mandats d'arrestation advenant qu'ils soient présentés.
La question est hypothétique. Moi, ce que je vous dis, c'est qu'on va respecter, bien entendu, le processus qui est entamé devant la Cour pénale internationale. On va le respecter.
Merci beaucoup. Madame Joly, vous parlez du processus, mais qu'en est-il de la décision?
How do you think the government should respond to what's happening at the ICC, where they're seeking a warrant for the arrest of the Israeli president?
Well, as Rishi Sunak said, it's unhelpful, and as Joe Biden said, it's outrageous.
Okay.
It discredits the ICC. There is no way to place the democratically elected leaders of Israel on an equal playing field with the terrorist leaders of Hamas, and the court lacks jurisdiction to begin with.
Got a very quick vote.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah, like, overall, what's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, the government of Canada was one of the champions of the International Criminal Court. And so the government of Canada has to support the International Criminal Court. Like that's the whole point of this institution, is that they are allowed to do their job independently and that they are supported by all those who are signatories to the Rome Statute.
Okay. I mean, some people are calling the decision outrageous because it's, unfairly targeting.
They're calling it outrageous because they don't like it. The court has looked at the evidence. The International Criminal Court is legal experts. They have asked for these warrants because they found that there's credible evidence for those warrants. That is what independent judiciaries are supposed to do. This is what the International Criminal Court has done, and Canada should support the work that they do and the decisions that they make.
At the same time, I mean, the government didn't say they were not supporting, but Chrystia Freeland seemed to suggest that they are into an internal process right now of deciding what to do.
There should be no internal process. But we should be supporting ICC.
No, I'm saying the ICC. There's a request that's been made by the prosecutor, but the request has not been granted yet. So technically, the arrest warrant does not exist yet.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So So what's wrong with the position of the government waiting for that arrest to be issued before commenting?
Why would the government of Canada not say unequivocally that they support the work of the International Criminal Court? The international courts are in place to uphold international law. At any point of any proceeding, the government of Canada should very clearly be able to say we support the ICC and the work that they are doing.
But a request for an arrest warrant, a request for a warrant is not the warrant,
no,
right?
No, but we can support them as they do this work. We can stay in tune with the next steps that will be taken by the court. But the fact that this has been asked for, the fact that the International Criminal Court is doing this work is important, and Canada should always support the work of the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. There should never be a question, and it should certainly not have taken this government 24 hours to even have a response. I gotta go vote.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
D'abord, j'aimerais dire que j'ai rencontré le président et dans ce cas de qu'est-ce que les conservateurs ont soulevé ce matin, la réalité, c'est que le président a fait tout ce qu'il avait à faire. Il y avait une correspondance, un courriel. Il a fait passer cette courriel par le greffier de la Chambre des communes. Puis ensuite, qu'est-ce qu'on a vu? C'est le Parti libéral du Canada qui a posté quelque chose de complètement différent à son insu, sans autorisation. Alors, le Parti libéral du Canada a manqué un respect total pour le président de la Chambre des communes et effectivement, le Parti libéral du Canada, le directeur national, devrait s'excuser auprès du président de la Chambre. Le président a fait la bonne chose et là, on a vu que là, c'est le Parti libéral du Canada qui a fait l'erreur et qui devrait s'excuser auprès du président. Deuxièmement, j'ai pris connaissance de la lettre de Chris Workington et il a passé, Chris, juste un paragraphe sur ces questions du posting. Tout le reste était de parler de toutes les autres choses dans la Chambre, surtout le fait que M. Poilievre était rappelé à l'ordre il y a quelques semaines. On se rappelle que toutes les autres partis en Chambre ont trouvé que le président a bien agi. Quand M. Poilievre a perdu contrôle, quand il a refusé de s'excuser, quand il a utilisé un langage qui était tellement non parlementaire que le président était obligé de lui demander de se retirer, toutes les autres partis ont trouvé ça juste. Alors, le fait que les conservateurs soulèvent ces points-là démontre un manque de sérieux, je pense, auprès du Parlement canadien. Et troisièmement, pour l'MPD, cette idée-là que les conservateurs soulèvent souvent, les questions de présidence, ce n'est pas ça qui nous préoccupe. Qu'est-ce qui nous préoccupe, bien sûr? C'est le fait que les gens à travers ces pays-là ont besoin d'aide, comme l'assurance médicaments. Et ce projet de loi du MPD va faire en sorte que 6 millions des Canadiens qui ont le diabète vont recevoir de l'aide. 9 millions des Canadiens qui utilisent la contraception, ils vont recevoir de l'aide. On a aussi des projets de loi qui redémarrent le programme du logement abordable, des logements qui ont cruellement besoin d'être construits tout de suite. Et bien sûr aussi, tous les amendements que Jagmeet Singh a apportés vis-à-vis la loi sur la concurrence pour faire en sorte qu'on puisse contrer les prix irraisonnables qu'on voit des compagnies, des grandes compagnies, chaînes d'épicerie, puis aussi des compagnies pétrolières, peut être arrêté dans ce processus-là. Enfin, les consommateurs, les consommatrices auront un recours. Alors, pour toutes ces raisons-là, pour l'MPD, on continue d'être focusé dans les prochaines semaines de faire adopter ces projets de loi pour aider les Canadiennes et les Canadiens. C'est ça que Jagmeet Singh et l'MPD veulent accomplir avec les quelques semaines qui restent dans cette session-là. So I wanted to comment on the Conservatives' point of order that they raised earlier today. And first off, say that the Speaker acted in the way that we have suggested he needs to act, which is he had correspondence going into his writing. He ran it by the Clerk of the House of Commons and put that forward. This is the way the Speaker should act. Unfortunately, the Liberal Party of Canada posted something completely different without his authorization on their website. It's now been deleted, but the Liberal Party of Canada owes an apology to the Speaker. The Liberal Party of Canada has shown profound disrespect by publishing that without the authorization of the Speaker, without the knowledge of the Speaker. They should apologize to the Speaker of the House of Commons and to the House of Commons for having acted this way. I secondly want to point out that Mr. Warkinson's letter only has one paragraph on this post and is 3 pages going over old ground, including a remarkable amount of content around Mr. Poilievre being called to order and forced to leave the House a few weeks ago. And you'll remember all parties in the House of Commons, with the exception of the Conservatives, found that the Speaker acted appropriately at that time. Mr. Poilievre was showing disrespect to the House, and the Speaker acted appropriately. Thirdly, the NDP is focused in these coming weeks, we have 4 weeks left, not on going through a couple of weeks of drama around the Speaker, but rather to really focus on what is going to help people. We have a pharmacare bill before the House of Commons that is going to help 6 million Canadians who have to pay for diabetes medication, often $1,000 or $1,500 a month. 9 million Canadians will benefit from the provisions around contraception as well. The NDP has also pushed for affordable housing to be built in this country, and that bill is before the House as well as Jagmeet Singh's amendments to the Competition Bureau that would actually mean that the federal government has more tools to combat food price gouging and gas price gouging that we're seeing in our country. And so for the 4 weeks that remain, what the NDP is going to be focused on, what Jagmeet Singh is going to be focused on, is delivering these things for Canadians to help them at a critical time when people are struggling often to put food on the table and make ends meet.
Given the climate, ask you about this thing with Fergus. He didn't know about the tribute video. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know that. This guy's been speaking for 7 months, and maybe you give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. But time and time again, people are complaining about his ability to act in a partisan way. You've been around here long enough to know Carol Hughes has never had that happen to her. Milliken never had it happen to him. Scheer. Time to cut loose on Fergus, don't you think?
I would disagree with you, David, though I know you have a great institutional memory. The reality is the Speaker is taking the steps that we believe are appropriate. Calling Pierre Poilievre to order is one example of that. This was very important, and we saw the next day Conservatives actually acting like adults in the House. That was an important step to stop the use of unparliamentary, inappropriate, disrespectful language in the House of Commons. And in this case, having run through correspondence through the Clerk of the House, which assures that nonpartisan nature of the correspondence, to have the Liberal Party of Canada post something completely different is highly inappropriate. And that's why the Liberal Party of Canada needs to apologize to the Speaker.
Given the climate that we've seen, the tenor of debate, the accusations of partisanship that he's faced for months, as was mentioned, should he be steering clear of these types of events, even if he didn't intend to describe it in such partisan language himself? Is it irresponsible or reckless of him to do this, given the accusations he's been facing recently?
I would say, and having had experience of a number of speakers, all speakers that do fundraising and they're riding for re-election, they have to run their election campaigns. Chris Warkentin actually acknowledged that. All speakers that I've been associated with have to have volunteers getting involved as well. What we ask of the Speaker is what the Speaker did in this case, which is run it by the Clerk of the House to make sure it is completely nonpartisan in nature and make sure that it respects our parliamentary procedures and guidelines. And I regret that the Liberal Party of Canada basically blindsided the Speaker. And in this case, that's why the National Director of the Liberal Party of Canada, I believe, needs to apologize fully and completely to the Speaker of the House of Commons. Mais là, je dirais simplement que toutes les présidentes, je suis quand même ici depuis presque 20 ans, toutes les présidentes, en fait, de levée de fonds dans leur comté, toutes les présidentes, en fait, aussi, ils ont attiré des bénévoles, ils ont besoin de ça pour se faire réélire. Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé dans cette cas-là, c'est que le président a demandé au greffier de regarder la correspondance. C'était bien, c'était non-partisan. Puis là, le Parti libéral du Canada a fait comme de façon inappropriée et montrant un manque de respect total. Ils ont posté quelque chose de complètement différent à son insu sur leur site Web. C'était inapproprié et c'est pour cette raison-là que le directeur national du Parti libéral du Canada devait s'excuser auprès du président. Merci.
There's two parties. I know this has been sort of the situation for, again, weeks or months, where there's two of the main opposition parties have no confidence in the Speaker. How much longer can we go on with these sorts of pronouncements if this comes up again, where there's two major political parties in the House that don't believe in the referee?
Well, I would disagree. With the Bloc Québécois, they actually said that the Speaker acted appropriately when Pierre Poilievre was forced to withdraw from the House because he refused to withdraw and apologize for his personal attacks and use of inappropriate and disrespectful language against another member of the House. And so I think the Bloc said at that point that was an appropriate way for the party to. Well, we have gone through last fall a period of convulsion around the House of Commons. You'll recall it was the NDP that first called for the resignation of Speaker Ferrada. You'll recall it was the NDP who brought that to the forefront. The other parties were not prepared to go there, but we felt at the time that the international embarrassment and condemnation that the Speaker's actions provoked necessitated, even though the Speaker had done a decent job, in our opinion, and it necessitated his resignation. In this case, we're not going to play games every day with the Conservatives trying to raise this constantly. The Speaker has a role to play, and we'd like him to continue to play it, and especially we've seen that when Mr. Poilievre or any other member deviates from what are the procedures and the traditions of the House of Commons, that they be held to account. And that's what the Speaker did in Mr. Poilievre's case. I understand the Conservatives don't want to let that stand because they were embarrassed by the whole episode. But I think their behavior in the House since has shown that they understand that the Speaker was doing his job in calling Mr. Poilievre to order. Merci beaucoup.
Just something on one other subject. Do you think the House of Commons should close the loophole that allows travel to be paid to party conventions if a caucus is held?
I'll leave all other questions to another scrum that's coming up in about 20 minutes. So thank you. Merci.
Ask you about Mr. Fergus. We're hearing from the Liberal Party that, look, he didn't write the event description. Look, he informed the House of Commons clerk. Does that change in any way your point of view on this matter?
Nothing has changed my point of view on Mr. Fergus. I said right from the beginning when he first did that partisan event that he should step down because he doesn't understand his role. His role is to be nonpartisan. It's to be the referee of the House, regardless of what his background is politically or his affiliation. I'm not surprised by this latest move. And I don't take any excuses anymore. 3 strikes and you're out. Mr. Fergus knows the rules. He's been around here a long time, as long as I have, and he should abide by the rules and have respect for this institution, which clearly he doesn't. So, thank you.
Okay.
But I think certainly I have just seen the headlines myself. I haven't heard any more details, so I have to be careful how much I comment until I actually know more about what was actually is being alleged.
But for now, you're standing by him.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't heard any more in terms of what that actually looks like. I've seen the headline when I came into the airport. I was just in the committee now, so I'll get briefed up as I go into the House now. But I think Greg has had some missteps. He has owned up to those. Whether or not this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, I'm not so sure. But again, the Conservative Party has been trying to discredit him pretty much from the day that he's been in the chair. And I think he would say that he's had some reflections where he needed to be better. I'm not so sure, and I have to go get more details. So for me to be able to comment too much, I haven't even seen the particular event or the way in which it was characterized.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Confiance dans M. Fergus malgré les récents événements?
Disons que les gaffes s'accumulent, mais j'ai des questions à poser pour savoir ce qui s'est passé vraiment. Ma compréhension de ce que j'ai lu pour l'instant, semble-t-il que c'est une espèce de copier-coller automatique sur un site web. J'aimerais en savoir un peu plus.
Mme Freeland dit qu'on ne peut pas faire d'équivalence entre Israël et le Hamas. C'est une façon un peu de critiquer le mandat d'arrêt, la demande de mandat d'arrêt qui a été faite par Benjamin Netanyahu. Vous en pensez quoi?
Bien, le Hamas est une organisation terroriste. Israël est un gouvernement démocratique. Il y a une méchante différence entre les deux. Par contre, tous les deux peuvent potentiellement commettre des crimes de guerre ou des crimes contre l'humanité. Nous, on fait confiance au droit international et aux institutions internationales. On pense que le procureur a fait un travail qui est sérieux, qui est diligent. Maintenant, on va voir s'il va obtenir les mandats d'arrêt qu'il requiert.
Mais est-ce que vous accueillez favorablement qu'on les mette comme ça dans une demande de mandat d'arrêt?
Bien, nous, au NPD, puis notre chef Jack Mead, puis notre porte-parole Heather McPherson ont toujours été clairs. Tous les potentiels crimes de guerre doivent être enquêtés et les personnes qui les ont perpétués, qui les ont opérés, doivent être poursuivies par la justice. La justice internationale, c'est pas deux poids, deux mesures, c'est pas des fois ça me tente, des fois ça me tente pas. Ça s'applique à tous, tout le temps.
How should Canada respond to what's happening in the ICC? They're seeking, prosecutors are seeking a warrant for the arrest of Hamas leaders and Netanyahu. How should Canada respond? Should we back that? Should we support?
Canada always supported the international law and the international institution and was one of the countries that had funded the International Criminal Court. So I think we have to say that it's a serious process. It's serious accusations. And I think that, international law, international justice should be applied to the same level to everyone at the international level. You cannot pick and choose.
Okay, so people are saying what's happening to Netanyahu, targeting him is outrageous.
I think that, if you potentially do some war crimes, everybody can be prosecuted, including the Prime Minister of Israel.
And on Fergus, I heard your comments in French. Does what we're hearing about this event that the Speaker was hosting, does it concern you? What concerns you about it?
Yeah, I'm concerned for the impartiality of the position, and it's not the first time. So it's an addition of gaffe, of mistakes. But I want to learn more about what happened exactly. Maybe it's just a technical problem of a copy-paste of an invitation, but I'm not sure right now. I have to ask questions.
Do you think he should stay?
I cannot answer right now. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Est-ce qu'il y a eu des failles dans la sécurité à Port-Cartier qui a permis à un détenu d'en attaquer un autre?
Moi, premièrement, quand on pense au détenu qui a été agressé, quand on prononce son nom, on pense aux victimes, aux familles. C'était un des criminels les plus dangereux au pays. Alors, quand on m'a informé dimanche soir qu'il y a eu cet incident à Port-Cartier, comme tout le monde, on a pensé aux victimes et à leurs familles en Colombie-Britannique. La commissaire du service correctionnel m'a informé dimanche soir qu'il y a eu un incident violent à l'institution à Port-Cartier. Elle m'a tenu au courant des développements hier. L'individu est dans un hôpital à Québec et comme il se doit, il y a une enquête interne du service correctionnel pour déterminer exactement qu'est-ce qui s'est passé. Et j'ose comprendre aussi que la Sûreté de Québec est aussi impliquée à cause d'une enquête criminelle. Et la loi sur la vie privée nous permet pas de discuter des détails de sa condition, évidemment, ou des incidents parce qu'il y a une enquête en cours. So I was informed on Sunday evening by Commissioner Ann Kelly of the Correctional Service that there had been a violent incident at a federal penitentiary in Port-Cartier, Quebec. The individual, the inmate, has been medically evacuated to a hospital in the Quebec City region. I was kept updated as to the circumstances and the condition yesterday and again this morning. As happens in all of these circumstances, the Correctional Service has a process in place to review all of these circumstances. I understand that the Sûreté de Québec is also seized with this matter. One of the primary concerns I have, obviously, is around the security of these institutions and the men and women who work in these prisons. I had an opportunity to visit a maximum security prison in New Brunswick. These are very difficult and dangerous working conditions. So as I was informed of this incident, I also thought of the women and men who work protecting Canadians in the institution. Juste pour ajouter, j'ai eu la chance de visiter une prison à sécurité maximale au Nouveau-Brunswick il y a quelques mois. J'ai constaté la difficulté du travail que les employés, les femmes et les hommes qui travaillent à l'intérieur de ces pénitenciers font face tous les jours. Alors, quand on m'a informé d'un incident violent de ce sort-là, j'ai tout de suite aussi pensé à la sécurité à l'intérieur de l'institution et aux femmes et hommes qui auraient dû intervenir dans une telle circonstance.
Avec que vous avez, avec les informations que vous avez, est-ce que vous avez l'impression qu'il y a des règles ou des façons de faire qui devraient être changées avec les informations préliminaires que vous avez obtenues?
Bien, j'ai demandé à Mme Kelly, à la commissaire, évidemment, de m'informer des résultats de son enquête interne. Il n'y a pas de doute que les hauts dirigeants du service correctionnel vont se poser exactement ce genre de questions-là. C'est quoi les modalités de sécurité interne et qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour s'assurer surtout la sécurité, comme j'ai dit, des personnes qui travaillent dans ces institutions-là. Alors, moi, je m'attends que ces questions-là vont être évidemment examinées à la loupe par le service correctionnel et d'autres autorités qui sont évidemment saisies de ces circonstances-là.
Vous avez commencé.
En anglais, could you say it again?
So, obviously, when an incident like this happens, the Correctional Service has internal procedures where they review the circumstances of the incident to ensure that all of the appropriate security practices are in place. As I said, a federal maximum security penitentiary is already a tough place to work in. So we want to make sure that all of the security precautions are appropriate. One of the things I learned when I visited a maximum security penitentiary is amongst the most difficult things for the staff to manage are exactly the interactions between the inmates. So certain hallways have certain inmates that shouldn't come into contact with others. There's a lot of time spent managing the movements of individuals within the prison. So this is exactly the kind of circumstance that they'll be examining in their internal investigation.
Vous avez commencé en disant, écoutez, on connaît ce prisonnier, on sait s'il est un des pires dans l'histoire du Canada. Est-ce que je me trompe ou j'ai comme entendu, j'ai cru entendre que vous n'alliez pas pleurer sur le sort de M. Pickton?
Écoutez, c'est pas à moi de penser à ce genre de circonstances. On reconnaît que cet individu a été condamné de crimes épouvantables. Il va servir une peine à vie en prison. Moi, j'étais informé de la situation, l'incident, et j'ai tout de suite pensé surtout aux femmes et leurs familles qui ont été victimes de ce criminel épouvantable.
Can I just
ask you about the public's right to know? I haven't had a question. Could I just get you? No, I asked you to repeat in English. Excuse me, Marie. Could I just ask you about the public's right to know about some of these high offenders, famous offenders, Magnotta, Pickton, etc.? Why shouldn't the public's right to know trump privacy interests of some of these offenders?
The privacy legislation applies to Canadians. I was also told by the Commissioner of the Correctional Service that one of the reasons why they try to keep confidential, and that's why members of Parliament that want to do videos discussing who's incarcerated in what institution doesn't actually contribute to the institutional security. The Correctional Service has for a long time declined to comment where certain individuals are serving their sentences, precisely to ensure the security of the institution and the staff that work there. So that was an explanation I got from the Commissioner of the Correctional Service. It made a lot of sense to me. And I think Canadians need to know that these dangerous criminals are kept in high-security federal penitentiaries. And in the case of this individual, he's serving a life sentence. Merci beaucoup.
Projet de loi, Monsieur LeBlanc, come on.
What's your reaction to the assault against Robert Pickton?
I want to express my sympathies to all of the individuals who've been affected by Robert Pickton, all of his victims and all of their families. We received the letter that was written by the mayors in BC to myself and I think to Minister LeBlanc. And what I would say is that, first of all, when someone is convicted of murder, and multiple murders in Canada, they receive a life sentence, and a life sentence is exactly that, a life sentence. What it does mean under Canadian law is that after a period of 25 years, you have an eligibility of parole. That doesn't mean you will get parole. The decision about parole is a decision that is made not by me, not by the Cabinet, not by Minister LeBlanc. It is made by an arm's-length entity, which is the Parole Board of Canada. That operates independently with good reason in our democracy. So questions about his parole eligibility are best put towards the Parole Board itself or to the Minister who oversees the Parole Board but doesn't direct them, and that's Minister LeBlanc.
And what's your message to the families of the victims?
The message to the families of the victims is that we understand your pain. We understand the issue about violence against women. We understand the issues about violence against Indigenous women. And we're working very hard, I am working very hard, to address that through things such as the response to the MMIWG, things such as responses to intimate partner violence. These are pressing concerns for all of us. This is a pressing priority for me. I've already been quite clear on the record about talking about themes such as domestic violence and violence against women is a pressing national priority, and I'm focused on addressing exactly that. Thank you.
Commentaire à propos en français, mais en français. Monsieur Virani, en français. Les gens du réseau vont voir en français. Qu'est-ce que vous avez à dire à propos de ce qui s'est passé avec M. Pickton et aux familles des victimes?
Donc, aux familles des victimes, le premier message, c'est juste un message de sympathie, que je comprends leur douleur, leur souffrance, même aujourd'hui, comme victime. La deuxième chose, c'est que j'ai reçu la lettre des maires de Colombie-Britannique concernant l'affaire avec M. Pickton. Et ce que je peux souligner, c'est que ici, dans notre système de justice, ici au Canada, notre système dit que si vous êtes condamné pour le meurtre, des multiples, vous êtes condamné pour une peine de toute ta vie, et c'est-à-dire ta vie au complet. Dans notre système, ceci dit, c'est-à-dire après 25 ans dans une prison, vous êtes éligible pour avoir une parole. Je m'excuse, je cherche le mot en français, mais ce ne dit pas que vous êtes obligé de recevoir une parole.
Libération conditionnelle.
Libération conditionnelle. La décision pour la libération conditionnelle, c'est toujours une décision qui est prise pas pour moi, pas par M. LeBlanc, pas par notre cabinet ou le Premier ministre. C'est une décision qui est prise toujours par le Parole Board of Canada, donc le conseil qui traite.
Et aux familles, vous allez leur dire quoi?
Oui, et juste pour souligner que s'ils ont des inquiétudes, les maires, vis-à-vis de leur lettre, il faut viser et diriger ces inquiétudes vis-à-vis le Parole Board of Canada directement. Et je vais être en contact avec le ministre. Vis-à-vis de la famille, ce que je veux dire, c'est tout ce que j'ai toujours dit, c'est qu'on comprend leur souffrance et leur douleur. On est tout à fait prêt à combattre la violence contre les femmes, spécialement les femmes autochtones. Et c'est ça que je fais toujours comme priorité pour moi et pour d'autres gouvernements, et spécialement vis-à-vis de la plan d'action qui a été mis en place après l'enquête nationale concernant les MMIWG en anglais, les femmes meurtrières, les femmes autochtones et les jeunes femmes autochtones. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Hello, as the chairperson of the the Liberal Women's Caucus, I'm here representing the Women's Caucus and members of the Liberal Party, and we've sent a letter to the Leader of the Opposition, asking him to be very clear with Canadians, and in particular with Canadian women, on what he would do to defend a woman's right to choose. We've seen that his caucus, there are many anti-choice caucus members. We've seen some of their actions recently, including MP Cathy Wagenthal, who at the pro-life rally held here last week said that women who have abortions end up needing redemption, forgiveness, and needing God. We as women want to know whether the Leader of the Opposition will ensure that his caucus does not put forward legislation that in any way impinges on women's rights and freedoms, in particular bodily autonomy. And Sophie is going to say some remarks in French.
Oui, je pense que plusieurs femmes partout au Canada, on est inquiètes par rapport à ce qui se passe aussi aux États-Unis. On est inquiète que le débat se rouvre sur l'avortement, un débat que les femmes de ce pays ont vraiment lutté pour avoir le droit de choisir, le droit de contrôler leur corps. Alors, ces femmes-là se posent beaucoup de questions aujourd'hui. On sait que le leader de l'opposition s'est dit pro-choix. C'est bien. Maintenant, il faut leader son caucus aussi pour ne pas réouvrir ce débat-là ici au Canada. C'est trop important. On a fait trop de travail, trop d'efforts, nous les femmes, mais aussi plusieurs hommes, pour se donner un pays auquel le choix des femmes est permis, leur liberté est respectée. Alors, nous demandons une position claire. Il y a beaucoup de risques en ce moment de réouvrir ce débat-là. Donc, on veut que ce soit un débat fermé, que le Parti conservateur ne rouvre pas cette question, ni en Chambre. Le débat s'est fait au Canada. On a choisi la liberté. Alors, on veut continuer dans ce chemin-là, puis on veut que le leader de l'opposition soit très, très clair avec les Canadiens. Merci.
His office has already said that. It's not clear. His office has said that they're not going to use the notwithstanding clause on abortion to regulate abortion. He said he's not going to legislate it, introduce it, pass it. So what part's not clear?
That's his government. There are ways that you can have private members' bill that are introduced as well, and the risk is still there. You know, he voted against Morgentaler back in 2008 as person. I mean, he is, in every sense, that caucus and that leader has made women wonder about the risk that they're going to be taking with this leader. And I want him to come out and unequivocally say that they do everything to defend a women's right to choose, that they will not allow their members to come forward with private members' bills and put forward bills that suggest that a fetus is a person, which is a backdoor way of, again, addressing this issue.
Is it he was here? The Harper government had 10 years. I know you weren't here. Many of us were. 10 years in power. They had 4 years as a majority, didn't move one bit. And they had private members who wanted to do things and do things. Guys, you are all 30 points down the polls. I'm looking at some of you will not get reelected if there was an election this fall. This is the most cynical play to just throw the abortion scare tactic. Would you like to respond to that observation?
Absolutely. It's
Please.
Not a scare tactic. We've seen what's happened in the States. Do people really think Roe versus Wade would have been overturned? Do we think what was happening there was going to happen? I've been in the women's movement for over 50 years. It is not a scare tactic. Things are going backwards, not only in Canada, but around the world. And these are real risks for Canadians. We need to know very clearly that that party, policies put forth at their convention, individual members are not going to introduce things because we do not want to go the same way as the United States. So it is not a scare tactic. It is a very strong concern. And I may not have been here then, but I was other places working on women's rights, okay? So do not use that as a reason why it's not a scare tactic.
Last question.
Let's just put it back the other way. The government hasn't also legislated to protect abortions either, right? So why doesn't your government introduce legislation to make it harder for that to get rolled back if there is a Conservative government?
You do not want to legislate woman's body. You do not legislate woman's body. That is not. You make sure that you have access to abortion. You don't want to legislate anybody's body, particularly a woman's.
Even if that is to protect the right to choose, like you're calling
No,
to do?
you don't want to legislate your ovaries, your uterus. No, that is not the way that you protect women's rights.
Je comprends ce que vous dites de ne pas légiférer dans un sens ou dans l'autre pour créer un droit qui ensuite peut être altéré. Je comprends ça, mais c'est un fait que votre gouvernement n'a pas nécessairement non plus élargi l'accès à l'avortement sur le terrain, même ce qui s'est passé au Nouveau-Brunswick. La réaction a été verbalement agressive, mais je veux dire financièrement ou en termes d'autres mesures.
Mais il faut quand même pas oublier que c'est un accès médical, c'est une question de santé que la femme se choisit, et la santé relève des provinces. Maintenant, si le Nouveau-Brunswick ferme une clinique qui donne, une des seules cliniques dans sa région qui donne accès à l'avortement, c'est à eux à expliquer pourquoi ils viennent d'enlever l'accès à l'avortement pour les femmes du Nouveau-Brunswick.
Qu'est-ce que vous répondez aux gens qui trouvent que, en ce moment, le Parti libéral agite des épouvantails pour faire des gains politiques parce que ça va pas bien dans les sondages?
Moi, je vais vous dire une chose. Depuis que je suis sortie publiquement il y a 2 semaines, il n'y a pas un endroit où j'ai été où les femmes m'ont remercié. Parce que la vraie question, c'est que moindrement il y a un doute, moindrement il y a une sécurité, il y a un risque. Et maintenant, il faut fermer la porte sur ce risque. Que Poilievre se positionne comme étant quelqu'un qui, aujourd'hui, se dit pro-choix, mais qui laisse la porte ouverte sur des votes au sein de son caucus, donc il laisse la porte ouverte au risque.
Il y a des gens au Canada qui sont contre le droit à l'avortement.
Oui.
C'est pas légitime qu'ils soient représentés au Parlement?
C'est pas ça la question. La question, c'est est-ce que tu veux avoir au Parlement? On a réglé la question. On a réglé la question sur l'accès à l'avortement et le droit des femmes de choisir dans ce pays. Et le pays est positionné comme ça. Ce qu'on demande, c'est que le parti de Poilievre se positionne clairement là-dessus.
Ces gens-là, puis qu'ils soient
il faut que le choix soit clair. Si tu es un parti qui donne la liberté sur le vote et le vote sur les femmes de choisir, qui le disent, parce que c'est pas ça qu'il dit. Il dit, moi, je suis pro-choix, mais je veux pas empêcher que les membres de mon caucus se posent cette question-là et ramènent ce débat-là sur la Chambre par des pétitions, des projets de loi privée. C'est pas ça qu'il fait. Nous, c'est clair. Nous, il n'y en a pas de question. On n'ouvrira jamais le débat sur la question de l'avortement. Le parti est très clair. Puis, honnêtement, s'il y a des gens au sein du parti qui pourraient penser autrement, parfait, mais la ligne du parti, la position du parti, elle est très claire. Et aujourd'hui, le Parti conservateur n'a jamais clarifié clairement sa position comme parti. Et tant aussi longtemps que ça, c'est un risque. Alors, à la question des sondages, mais c'est sûr que les femmes sont inquiètes. S'ils voient qu'il y a un risque minimalement qu'un parti peut arriver au pouvoir puis changer ce droit, nommer des juges, changer la législation au niveau de la justice, mais il y a un risque. Puis le risque est réel.
Merci.